Well, hello again. I learned an interesting little factoid. Somebody who had come out of Freemasonry was talking about, how it worked and things like that. And he said he had been an ordained priest. And he left that to go explore Freemasonry. But in order to get to certain levels in the hierarchy, he had to go back and become an active ordained priest again. And he was explaining how anyone who approached those levels had to be an active clergyman. So your priests, your pastors, your ministers, your rabbis, they could all be devoted to Lucifer, to Satan, while preaching. And then, of course they could, because it's not like they're using Yahuwah's name in their churches and synagogues, because it's too sacred to be uttered in the synagogues. And they just call him the Lord in the Christian churches. So, yeah, there's the Lord that they're calling on isn't the one you think it is. And I also remembered how someone else was explaining that the reason they have release dates for your movies, your albums, and things, and they're at certain times, because what they're going to release throughout the year, they hold one big ritual where they put subliminal messages in all the songs that are going to be released from all the artists that have signed contracts with all the people involved in this, and all the head people and movies and the music industry. And then they cast spells over that soundtrack. They get a reel, and everything that's going to be released for music and movies in one shot, they cast spells on it after putting the subliminal messages in it. And learning about the requirement that they have to be active clergy members, I now understand why this one guy, he's out of Africa, and he shared his redemption story, how he came to the Lord. And when he was an infant, it was predicted that he was going to have a very significant life. He had a lot of good stuff coming his way. And so when he was an infant, they married him to a very old evil witch. And so his whole life was a disaster, and from infancy devoted to all that stuff. And he talked about how he got saved when some young girl approached him and wasn't afraid of him and told him about Jesus. And so the person interviewing him was like, at the end of the interview, would you like to say a prayer? And he said, yes, I will. Because he's a leading pastor or minister, whatever he identifies as, over several congregations there in Africa. And he starts praying, and immediately I felt this very dark spirit come my way. I'm like, oh, hell no. I hit and delete and moving on. And, I wondered about that. Like, am I crazy? Like, what? But now I know. If he is that high up then he would have to become an ordained minister and move himself into the Christian congregations. Like, oh, well, that explains a lot, doesn't it? I was reading through the book of Luke and the Sefer version, and it talks about the last days and one being forsaken and one being received. And Yahusha says that it's like when Lot was rescued from Sodom and Gomorrah. So it will be for the people at that time. So what happened to Lot? He was taken by the angels so far away from Sodom and Gomorrah and told keep going to another specific place. Like, don't slow down, keep going. But they got him, well on his way to safe zone because that rain of sulfur and fire was coming on down. And so that's how it will be. One is forsaken, left to whatever plague is affecting that area, whether it be lightning strikes, whatever, sudden death. I don't know. How did the firstborn die in Egypt, I don't know. But that just, again, does that sound like a rapture? Like, it just doesn't seem like it. Just, side note, just what I'm observing while I'm reading. So I'm not going to discount a rapture. I mean, Enoch was taken to heaven. Was it Elijah? Yeah, because then it was Elisha who came after him. The first one, Elijah, was taken up in flaming chariots. So, I'm not saying a rapture is impossible. I'm just saying, if we don't get raptured, that's not a bad sign. There's people around you are all dropping dead, but you're in a nice wilderness place or a nice forest home or, a wonderful desert biodome or wherever you're taken. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong. It doesn't mean you're not going to make it into, the new earth or anything like that. Oh yeah. So more on what we feed ourselves with. The entertainment that we watch, especially before bed. Like I said, the subconscious that's the last thing it was shown. And so that's your place card. This is where you left off. This is what you were witnessing, did anything change? Welcome back. This is where you left it. But also, somebody told me something. And again, a magic practitioner up in that satanic stuff. See, this is why we are perishing, because we do not know, we are not instructed and informed by any clergy around us, whereas they're taught all the tricks. They are taught all the laws, everything of creation and navigation and how it is we exist, in the image of God. So he was telling me how for every person he meets, everybody he knows, there's a good version and a bad version of them. And I'm like, okay, this guy is off the charts. Burned a bunch of his own dogs to death, but didn't remember it. Swore he didn't do it. And loves dogs, shows attention and affection to dogs all the time. But then other few times people are like, dude killed my dog. So we're talking about that kind of guy that walks around and just yelling and ranting and banging on tables all the time. And other times he's just very nice and sweet and polite. So he's telling me this, and I'm like, well, I don't look at things as either good or bad, or people as good or bad. I ask, who is it serving? How is it serving? And is it still serving to the highest good of myself? When I'm interacting with people, are they serving my highest good? I said, meet me out in the field beyond right and wrong. Because everything is good. When it was created, it was good. It's putting things in inappropriate places and inappropriate times and inappropriate ways. That's when things become evil. And he got ticked up, banged on the table, and went marching off. But you know what? For the first time, he was able to leave that community and stay away. He had told me how every other time he would get so far down the road, and then he doesn't know how it happened, he would end up right back there. He was trapped in that community. And after that, he left a little note on a chalkboard, because I knew I was being psychically watched. I knew my thoughts and everything were being monitored, and I had a feeling it was him. And so I just put some bait out there. I'm like, I had an experience of the void, and it was wonderful. Just boop, and then whoosh, flying off. So I said, when I was thinking about that void, and I perceived that my thoughts were being monitored, I said, well, if this person is the guy for me, then next time I see him, he'll say something about the void. So, sure enough, the next day, I go to where we all gather for coffee, and everybody's wondering, what happened to him? What happened to him? He left a note on the chalkboard, and we haven't seen him since. Do you know where he went? Yeah, he got on a bus. There's this white bus that carried this group of people. They're called the family because it was the husband and wife. They were divorced, but they still traveled together for the sake of the kids, living off the bus. And like a whole bunch of trouble left with that bus when it left. People didn't exactly like them. So before he left, got on that bus and left, right on the chalkboard, on the little hanging chalkboard, he wrote a message about the void. I was like, I knew it. Like, I was so happy that I was able to perceive that going on. Like, I was not just being messed with and thinking it's me going crazy. So that was a relief. So anyways, he was telling me about, inside him, there's a version of everybody that he meets, one good and one bad. And I was like, oh, that's how we're like our Creator. That's the mirroring. So everybody that we meet, and I know my dog's got a version of herself in here too, because I think about her while she's sleeping, and I sense a bark come from like out of my body. So that's everybody that we meet. We create within ourselves a version of them, and so that exists within us. And so every video we watch, every interaction we have, everybody in our environment, ever, we have a version of them inside ourselves. And some, when we stop interacting with them, they fade away. It's more distant. Some we have to pray to have lifted out of us or to be transmuted because they're not good for us. And if they're as tenacious as the people that they're mirroring, yeah, go marry them. Get out of me. So, it's quite normal to have thoughts that you normally wouldn't have going through your head because you're creating a version of them. And that version of them, if you're having like thoughts about them and you want to argue with them, and that's one thing like as a child we'll be like, well, what if I said this to that person? And then there's a response or a reaction inside of us, and so we've got these little battles going on inside of us. One version of an aspect of ourselves with another version of an aspect of ourselves that we created to mimic that person, so we can role play and get it right next time. Like, this is for real, and we need to know this, because I just tell those aspects, you don't have to play that role anymore. We aren't having an issue with that person. We don't have to answer them. And we're assured in Scripture that anytime we're brought before anybody, if, we have to answer, then the answer will be given to us in the moment that we need it. So I ease those aspects of myself into coming back as one with the aspect that they separated from, and then gradually everything comes into oneness. But yeah, I forgot that. So I wasn't watching anything bad like rated R movies or anything, but again, learning and obtaining this information, such as these people serving as clergy members who are actually a part of the Church of Lucifer, the Church of Satan, like, it's a necessary evil creation. But now, as the answers and the resolution come, that can be released, transformed, come back into oneness with the wholeness of what I am, and for you, what you are. What else? I think about covered it. Bunch of wackadoodle stuff, man. But this is part of the armor of God, this information. Another thing that was just like a byproduct, there are people who I'll associate, like I'm associated with them on some level or some way through someone else or whatever. And they're not bad people. They're not alcoholics. They're, though some alcoholics are the best people I've known. So, they're not criminals. They're like hardworking, middle-class people. They'll give you the shirt off their back. There's just ways of relationshiping. Like, I watch them in couples, and like, oh, that's cute. He's asking for your attention. He loves you. He really wants his time with you. He doesn't like you being distracted. That's so sweet. But the way he goes about it, like, oh, hell no. No, I would not want that in my life. That's just a lot of passive aggressive going on there. And I don't want that. And so there are people like that. And so the Creator asked me, well, would you want to be intimate with those people? No. Would you want your daughters to be intimate with those people? No. Would you want your son to be like this? No. Well, then why would you choose to associate with those people? And then just the impression of why our Creator wants certain people in His kingdom and not others. So do with that what you will. That was the other thing. Yeah. Crazy, crazy. Tell my dog. Tell my dog. Okay, so hopefully that helps. Clergy. It's a requirement in the higher levels of Freemasonry and the Church of Satan. We are like our Creator, within whom we exist. So there are mirror aspects of ourselves that take on the personalities of the people around us. And apparently our dogs too. So all the spirits within anything around us. The spirits of the governing entities of wherever we are. Of the land, of the air, of the sun, of the moon, of the stars, of the clouds, of the rain, of the mountains, all of that. There's an aspect of us that is just a mirror image of them. All of them. And if there are personalities that you don't think are evil, but you would not want them in your experience, then so it is that our Creator, who probably knows more about what's motivating that unpleasant feeling behavior in other people, if He doesn't want unpleasant personalities in His kingdom, that's His business. That's His right. And if He doesn't want that, for His children, then that's His business. That's His right. And His children are very grateful for that. Yeah. Hopefully that's all. And hopefully something in there helps you armor yourself in your walk of the way of Yahusha. In the name of Yahuwah Elahai, the God of the living.